So let's begin with the first sif after Omnom, the second sif, in other words. There's a nakuda which the Rebbe Nishma brings here, which I think might be a good idea to look into a little bit, because it will be negeh to the Hemshech. Although here it's more of a side point, but it's negeh. The Rebbe Nishma brings down over here from Eitz Chaim, we look on the third line, on Rishon and Vov. He brings down, Val derech ma shekosav Eitz Chaim be'inyan hakav shehiksha. Mibnei ma hoya hatzimtzum ba'ofen kozeh shenistala ka'or legamri v'lo nisha oir hakav. And he continues, v'tiritz shebechdei she'ishava ha'olam hayitzorech li'yisiluk legamri. Ve'im hoya nisha afilu rak oir hakav lo hoya yishava sa'olam. So let's examine this question. What is Eitz Chaim asking? Everybody's maskim. Everybody knows that the Tzimtzum Rishon was b'derech siluk. Right? That's the whole difference between the Tzimtzum Rishon and all other Tzimtzumim. And all other Tzimtzumim is miyutim, taking the same oil and making it less, which is al derech mashal. If you have an achsadra lo oira nivdekes, it has loads of light inside. But if it only has a window, you have to do it at night time with the oila ba'osa, because it only has a window, it has less light. Is there a difference between the lights? The same light, but in Kamos it's much less. If you then close the window and you just leave a small hole, you'll also have the same light, but only one ray of light. That's called miyutim. The Tzimtzum Rishon is b'derech siluk. The whole oil was taken away, we start again. So the Eitz Chaim is asking a question, why did you have to go b'derech siluk legamri? Why didn't you just leave over the kav? This shal is brought down many different places, but also in this Hemshech towards the beginning, which you should be mitzayin somewhere here, early on in the Hemshech. So let's think about what type of question is this. It should be mesalik, let's say 90% of the oil, and leave over 10%. How are you going to do this? Can you split up an oil insof into bits and pieces? Take 90% off, leave over 10%. Does that make sense? What's the question? It's a bit like saying, if we use the moshel of the Rab and the Talmud, he has a seichel omik, a tifa svara, and you tell him, well, listen, you're going to be mashpir to Talmud now, take away 90% of your amkus and leave over 10%. Does that make sense?
Yes. Why not?
On oir echod, a svara achas, can you split it up into pieces?
You could share it in a much more simple fashion. You could share...
That's different. What you're doing is you're taking away the seichel and you're restarting it in a different level. Okay, that's a different thing. That's siluk, and then hamshachas hakav. The question of the Eitz Chaim is, take almost everything away, but leave over a chelik. How can you have a chelik of an oir echod, a chelik of an as?
It's more like an echos thing. Make it be magvilit.
He doesn't say be magvilit. He says be mesalik the oir habligvul, and leave over a little bit of it.
Understood that it doesn't mean like water in a funnel.
So explain, what does it mean?
Be magvilit, but not a safe.
No, he doesn't say be magvilit. He says be mesalik a chelik. That was the question. Why not?
It's much more special because the whole Hemshech is once you have something bleak vol, you can't minimize bleak vol.
Bis machazik the kasha.
That's all Hemshech.
Right.
He goes afterwards. A drop of bleak vol is not bleak vol.
It's also bleak vol, exactly. I'm not talking about it. Even the etzem musig of splitting up doesn't make sense. An oir echad poshut cannot be split into pieces. How can you say take away 10% of the echos of this oil and leave over? Take away 90, leave over 10.
You're resulting with the same oir hakav in his scenario. It's hypothetical. In Eitz Chaim's hypothetical, you're resulting with the same oir hakav. So whatever the oir hakav is now, which whatever the opinion of the oir hakav, however it works, the oir mamale basically. That vice days was Michoel or part of the Ein Seif. There was a part of the Ein Seif.
So you're asking what's going to be afterwards anyhow?
Whatever that is, that part.
I'm first want to examine the question. What I'm saying over now is actually an earlier maimah in the Hemshech. The question the Rebbe Nishma asks himself this question: so what does the Eitz Chaim want? How can you split? He doesn't say it mamish in these words, but you can't split up a shtickle bleakvul and leave over 10%. It doesn't make sense.
You're asking if it's a partial.
Huh?
You're asking if it's a partial, then you can't be mechalik.
Right, so partial.
Right.
And the Arakav was not present as the Indian Isaac.
Oh, now we're getting to the point. From the very question of the Eitz Chaim, the Rebbe Nishma proves that there's two Eiros before the Tzimtzum. B'chlolis it's called an Eir Echad Pashut, but there is another Eir HaGvul.
We have much places that it was there, and then it was Nichal. The Kav was there, was Nichal, and then
right.
it came back out.
Because what is like this? There's two shittas, B'chlolis there's two shittas, benegir to the Eir HaKav. There's a shitta that holds that the Kav is Be'etzem and Eir HaGvul, and there's a shitta that holds that the Kav is Be'etzem and Eir HaBligvul. On what are these two shittas based? On the two shittas that you're already familiar with, benegir to Sfiras. Is the Eir HaChesed an Eir HaChesed that goes into a Kli HaChesed, or is the Eir HaChesed the same Eir as goes into Gvura? It's an Eir Poshut, and the whole difference between the Sfiras is the Kalim. Like the Mayim and the Kli Schuchas, the moshel of the powders. If you put Mayim Pshutim in a green Keli, it looks like green water. If you stick it into a red Keli, it looks like red water. But Be'etz and the water is the same. So are you going to say the oil is the same thing as an oil poshut? Or we say no. The reason why this oil goes into Sfiras HaChesed is because into Kli HaChesed is because the oil itself already has a tzir of Chesed. Taka, not the same tzir as much as a Keli. Legabe the Kli would be considered pshitus. But in Inyan, it has a shaykhus to Chesed. Al derech, like the koyach ha-hiluch is going to go to the foot, it's not going to go into the ears. Ears can't walk, and feet can't hear. So it's a koyach mitzuya, which goes to the keli, which is made to measure, which is his Inyan. So are we going to say it like this? So these two shittas you have in Sfiras. Let me protis mistam, but there's more shittas, not negeya, but in Bechlolis we have two shittas. Is it an oir poshut, or the oir has a tzir? Based on these two shittas, we work backwards when we get to the kav. Is the kav be'etzem an oir hagvul, or is the kav be'etzem an oir habrigvul? If you say that the Sfiras have, the oir of the Sfiras have mitzad atzma mitzil, there's an oir chesed even before it came down to kli chesed. It was be'etzem oir chesed. Where did that chesed come from? It came from the oir hakav. That means the oir hakav already incorporates 10 Sfiras, 10 tziyurim, ba'ifan hiyuli. But it already incorporates 10 inyonim, and all that has to be done from the kav is to come out from the kav into the keli. So the kav is already an oir hagvul. The other shita will say that the oiris of the Sfiras are pshutim. There's no tzir to the oiris. The same oiris in ches, the same oiris in kvura. The whole tzir is only mitzad the kli. That shita will hold that the kav be'etzim is an oir habrigvul. It's a ha'ora of brigvul. These two shittas are brought down all over the place, and sometimes you have to examine the mimer to see which one which shitta he's doing. In the Hemshech Vayim base, he is be'ika out to emphasize the shitta that holds that the oiris have its seal, and that the oir kav is an oir hagvul, and not only has an oir hagvul, but even before the tzimtzum. Even when there was still oir and sof hayim malamakam acholol, already there you could split up and say there's two oiris. There's an oir habrigvul and there's an oir hagvul.
It wasn't nichal.
It was because kasha olabrit zaynai lahatzu v'livra to make esesfiras is already shibatz mebekayich already made esesfiras in the oir. So you have like another oir. Just to try and imagine it a bit more, I like to use a moshel gashmi, even though I haven't seen this moshel for this, but just imagine it. The Gemara says that if you stand in a certain place next to the Yam Kinneret on a certain position, you can see a stream of water which is Be'er Shel Miriam. I never tried it because I was never there, but it's supposed to be a stream over there that you can see it's coming from Be'er Shel. It's a different stream. You're able to see that. Now, if you go swimming through the Yam, the Kinneret over there, you won't tell any difference. It's all water. Mayim b'mayim. You won't be able to tell the difference. But be'etzem, there's another stream going along over there, which is a meyuchadika stream. There's a Maisa with the Arizal. You know the Maisa with the Arizal? It's a Maisa with the Arizal. The Arizal had his famous Talmud, Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital came to him and said, "Ich verstehe nicht. I'm not digesting your information, your Kabbalah." So the Arizal said, we're going for a trip. They went on a boat, and the Arizal had with him a cup, and somewhere in the middle of the trip, he scoops out some water, and he says, drink this up. And now, once he drank, he said, now you'll understand what I'm talking about. You just drank from Be'er Shel Miriam. So he knew exactly where to stop the boat and to scoop out the water. That's 1 cup of Be'er Shel Miriam, which is a good idea to go looking for. Matzah Shabbos, it says you should go making a drink. So it was a health and sustained. It's not chazar, but it doesn't say that. It's because he drank from it. Anyway, so Nachzon Yoneinu. So I'm saying it's another stream within a stream. Within the yam, there's another stream. So Kaviyachol, the same thing. There's a stream within Iyar and Sof. There is another Iyar. Kamuvan, while it's lifnei hatzimtzum, you cannot split it up. You're going to need a tzimtzum to split it up. But there is 2 Iyros. There's Iyar HaBligvul and there's Iyar HaGvul. Therefore, it makes sense to shine with the Eitz Chaim. The Eitz Chaim goes with his shitta. He holds us an Iyar HaGvul. So his shaila is, why be Masalik everything and then start again? Just be Masalik the Bligvul, and you'll be left over with the Iyar HaGvul. So from the Etzem Shaila, you can see his shitta. It's important to note that this shitta, as I said earlier, this is the main shitta that he wants to be mazbe in Ayin Beis. He wants to go with that. Like he says, occasionally he says, Kfi hashita mavu b'drush zeh. In this drush, in Ayin Beis, he wants to push this shitta. But he does bring down the other shitta every now and then, sometimes, and compares them. And in Chelik Beis, which is his Chelik Beis, somewhere along the line, the truth is right at the beginning of the Hemshech, he mentions that there is a tivuch. If you've learned, for example, the Hemshech of Samach Vov, you'll see there that he also goes in the middle in Achaydish Vayolech over there. He also goes with 2 shittas in the Iyar HaKav. And he explains the question which he wants to explain over there according to one shitta, and then he says this is according to this shitta, and then he says back to the fear of war. But Reiv HaMekaymus, let's go and explain it the other way around. And actually there he says Reiv HaMekaymus hold not like that, hold that it's Bligvul. He knows Reiv HaMekaymus, I don't know, but it stays over there as 2 different shittas. But in Ayin Beis, he is metavach the 2. And what's the tivuch? The tivuch is that it depends if you're talking about Pnimius HaKav or Chitzonius HaKav. Chitzonius HaKav is Taka and Iyar HaGvul. Pnimius HaKav is Bligvul. That's the general tivuch somewhere along this Hemshech. So, but getting back to the point, over here makes a lot more sense now, the question of Eitz Chaim, because he's coming from the Shitta that it is an Iyar HaGvul, and therefore you could be Masalik, the Bligvul, and leave this over. Not only that, in fact, in the first Chelik, he says a Lashon, that the Tzimtzum, the Gabi, the Iyar HaKav is left. I don't think we should go into that, it's another whole Pasha Rifnei Atzmai. That the Tzimtzum, the Gabi, the Iyar HaKav is a different type of Tzimtzum. Akoponim, this is a Dava Pasha that there was a Siluk Legamri. Shaila is, why was it Siluk Legamri? How can you ask such a question? Because there is an Iyar HaGvul beforehand. Okay. That's the first point. The Emerson is we can think a bit further beneged to the teretz of the Eitz Chaim. He says, if there would have been left over the Iyar HaKav, you wouldn't be able to have Brias Eiremes. There could be no Ishavas of Kalim. He says there the word Kalim. Here he goes further and he says wouldn't be Ishavas Eiremes. It was the same idea. If there would have been left over the Iyar HaKav, there wouldn't have been a Metzias of Kalim. Once you're Masalik the whole Iyar and Sof, and you allow for the Metzias of Kalim and Eiremes, then when the oil comes back, is Michoel to the Kabul. What's the Lashon over here? He says, "Ve'im hayanisha filo Iyar HaKav loy hayishavas ha'olam u'la'acha shenishava bi'Michoel to the Kabul Iyar HaKav." What's Taka the Hezbollah in that? It's Taka not mamish negir to here, but it's brought down in many places. What's Taka the Hezbollah that it's like ki'ilu b'lachatchila b'diavad. Lachatchila, if the Iyar HaKav remains, you can't have Eilemis. If you take it away and the Eilemis are there, the Kalim arrived, now you're here, okay, but David, you can stay.
Leave in mind there is something about it's explaining the difference between the effect of the tzimtzum on the kav and the earning safe, whatever.
Right.
It says it has to be nichal, it was nichal in the tzimtzum, in the chayach and gulayish, whatever it is, and that had a certain effect on it, that when it was a scholar, that maybe that would be missing, but that's not the siluk, that's the, I don't know.
That's what happens afterwards when it's mislabish and the shimon further. We're talking about on the next page.
We wouldn't have that effect maybe.
That's for definite. Once it goes into the Shima and starts going through all the items, it becomes less and less. But we're talking about the first stage. He says, once you are Masalik everything, then Kabinis have the Kalim. Once they're there, they can receive the Oirakav. The question is the Oirakav a steerer to the Metzias of Eilemus or not? Monoshach. If you can't have the Eilemus when the Oirakav is left over, then how do they manage to receive it afterwards? But I don't know if we have to go into this, because this is mamish not. It's not being discussed over here. He's just using the point. The fact is that once it's here, the Eilemus, they're able to receive the Oirakav. So therefore, he goes into what he's talking about over here. How are you going to have Gilui Oir and Sof in the Eilemus? Okay. What was the next thing? Okay, that's one thing. Okay, we're done with that. So far, so good. Okay. Now let's go to another point. Let's ask a question. Where would you find Atzilus? Where's Atzilus?
In the basement here somewhere.
Upstairs or downstairs, downstairs.
I'm asking the question. Where would you find Atzilus? Sounds like a funny question, but think about it. What have you ever had this question been mentioned by any Magadi Shiurim? They don't say, where's Atzilus? Huh? Right here.
I don't know, Malcolm Gashmi, but I'm saying it's also to be.
Huh? Is it right here?
It isn't, or is it? Where is math? I don't know.
Is it here?
So
Is Atzilus?
we can see it, but it's right here.
It's right here. But you can't see it. But it's here. The fact that we can see it or not makes no difference, right? But you're saying it's here. So, does that what the Maimon says?
I remember touching upon it.
It talks about Makim that this is Asar Hediyat, not the word.
I'm not talking about Asar Hediyat, which is Makim HaMikdash. I'm talking about Eilemus. Huh?
The Mimer says that the art before Atzilus is everywhere, but starting from Atzilus and down, it's not.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you. Before Atzilus, what?
They're in saying Davish is everywhere.
Davish is everywhere. We know Davish is everywhere. This question is Atzilus everywhere?
I mean, there is.
You said Atzilus was here. Is Atzilus everywhere?
He does speak about the Mimer about how it's Hapshachah from Atzilus and all that.
How does Hatzilas Yishgam B'yat?
Ha'oros Atzilus yes, never be.
That's what it says in my.
You can get Ha'oros of anything anywhere. I'm talking about where's Atzilus? Is Atzilus down here?
Something that's L'mayla from Makim.
Is it L'mayla from Makim?
So it's everywhere. No,
Is it L'mayla from Makim?
I think so. I think it's mine also.
I'm not talking about Makim Gashmi. I'm talking about L'mayla from Makim Ruchni.
I don't remember.
Well, he says clearly that it is Mukbal in Makim.
So you can have Makim without Zman?
Yeah, look at the last few lines of Reish Nun Vav. He says, "Es Shema v'Esod Tzani Mole Mamish K'may Kedem Atzilus. V'hu b'chinas Ein Sof Mamish. V'K'may Ba'olemus Yesh Hefresh Ben Atzilus u'L'mayla Atzilus. The Ba'atzilus Harei Ein Sof Li'Hispashtusoi Ach Zehu Rak B'Madregas Atzilus. B'Madrega Atzilus. Aval Kasha Hemshech Ha'oir Chutz La'Atzilus. Eine beginnen Ein Sof. Ha'oros Atzilus in Biyah. Fine, Ha'orav Atzilus. That's Ha'orav Atzilus. Third line from the top. Chol Zehu Ha'oros Atzilus. Rak Ha'mosh Nimshech Derech Parsa. Ma she'ein ken Ha'or Shel Ha'maylim Atzilus Shenimse B'chol Mokim Ad Lamata Gam Ba'olam Hazatach. Ha'arei Hu beginnen Ein Sof Mamish. K'mei Chasevev, etc. You see the difference? It's a major difference. Atzilus is a madrega. So it's on its level, whatever that level is. Let's consider the four Eilemus as Daimim Tzemech Chai Medaber. So the level of Medaber is Atzilus. The level of Chai is going to be Bria, etc. Is Medaber in the level of Daimim? Is Daimim in the level of Medaber? No, each one has his shelf, his level. Each Mokim of Seichel is not in tables. Seichel is in the Olam of Medaber. So the Olam of Atzilus is an Olam which is on this level. And if you want to go further down to the next level, you have to stop the Gil of Atzilus. In other words, you have to make a parasa and say, Ad Kan Atzilus. Now we're going to the next level, which is Bria. And Atzilus has to be made, a little bit of Atzilus has to be in every Olam, but it's a Ha'ara. A Ha'ara of Atzilus will come down, just like Marshall, in the person. You have Seichel in his Mayach. Does that mean there's no Seichel anywhere else in the Guf? Even somebody who dances with a Chochmah is using his Seichel, how to dance. There's a certain Chochmas Harikud, whatever that may be. There's a certain chokhmah over there, but it's chokhmas hamaisa. It's not chokhmah. You can't ask the foot how much is 2 + 2. The foot doesn't go that direction. It is not that type of seichel. But seichel hamaisa, seichel harikud, that you can have. That's a ha'ara of seichel, which is shaykhis to feet. Whereas seichel, the shem seichel, is only in the mayach. So Atzilus is like the madrega of Seichel al derech moshel. It's on that level. It's not in Olam Habriya. A ha'ara will come in Olam Habriya, and a ha'ara da in Yitzira, and a ha'ara da in Asiyah. But Atzilus is in Atzilus, and Briya and Asiyah is down here. And we're in Olam Hadaimim, Olam Ha'asiyah, Hagashmi v'Achumri. The only thing you could have down here, which you could say there is Atzilus down here, is if you have a tzaddik who has an neshama of Atzilus, which comes down without any halomis vesterim, and he lands down here in a goof, and he stands bebittel bemetzias, you could say down here is Atzilus came down. Or we could speak about the Torah, for example. The Torah is Chochmah Atzilus, which came down and transported itself into Olam Ha'asiyah. So that's why when a Sefer Torah comes in, you all stand up, because Atzilus came in. You have to show derech eretz. But the Olam of Atzilus is on that level and is not down here. Whereas Oren Sof HaSover v'Habligvul is everywhere. He's over here, he's in Atzilus, just like he is over here. It can be in Olam Ha'asiyah, Olam Habriya, Olam Atzilus, higher, wherever you want, he's there. So if we were going to make a picture, we would have to put Atzilus as a line, one level, whereas Sover would be, as we know, like a Sover, like a circle. Why? It goes from Lamay Lamay bis Lamata Mata, all the way around. Like it says, the Lashon sometimes in Mitachas Zroyos Olam, which is going on Ark or on Seviv, it incorporates and surrounds everything. That's what we mean when we say Oren Sof is everywhere. Es Hashemayim v'Ha'aretz Ani Mole. How does it translate it? Or maybe it doesn't say it here, Mamish, but in other places it says Ani Mole b'Shova. I'm in Shemayim just like I'm in Eretz. Same thing. There's no difference. Why is it b'shova? Because it's not made of madregas. There's an oil which is made of madregas, which he actually mentions a few times over here, that oil pnimi has its milo mata. Oil haseviv doesn't have milo mata. It's always everywhere at the same time. Therefore, based on that each one has its level, we now understand the question. How could you have a gilui in the world of Oil and Sof? And he goes into a whole lengthy arichas on page Reish Nun Ches about kosher kriyas yamsuf. Did you get that? What he was saying over there about kosher kriyas yamsuf? What's called kosher? What's not called kosher? Huh? Right. So if Oren Sof comes down, Oren Sof Habligvul comes down to the world, is that kosher?
Depends if it's mechaber or if it's smashing the world and making a nace. That's the ma'od.
So
in our context, it would mean if it's very applicable, then no, it's not kosher because it's just imposing itself on the world, not becoming one with the world. That's what we understand.
So when do we say kosher? On the Oren Sof Habligvul or on the Oil Pnimi?
Oil
Pnimi. That's the word. Since Oil Pnimi is an oil, which is the system of this oil is Oil Pnimi, that means it's on madregas. So therefore, either you're there or you're here. You can't have something which is on a higher level come down to a low level and nothing should go wrong. Something's going to go wrong. It doesn't make sense according to the system. If you're not going according to the system, you're going mitzad brigvul or mitzad kol yachol or mitzad atzmus, so then anything can happen. We're talking about according to the system which he mentioned, there should be this level, this is level, and the second level is a different level completely. You can't mix them up, either or. So that's when we say kosher. That's why he bavorans the whole arichas sticker brackets that when he's asking the question, how could there be gilu Oren Sof? He's not talking about. It's not the inyan of kosher. Vada it could be gilu Oren Sof. Why not? He's not made of madrigas. Oren Sof Abrigvul is here now. Right now, he's over here. So Shemayim v'Ha'aretz Ani Mole, he could be over. He is here now. We don't feel him, but he's here now. So the question is, could he be Nisgala? What would happen if he would be Nisgala? On that he says that if he would be Niskala, there would be a problem with the Tzimtzum, would be Nispatel. And the only answer to that, what's the answer? What can we do about the Tzimtzum? We have to be Mahapich the Tzimtzum.
The Chibur Havkim.
Chibur, yeah.
Chibur Havkim is Gila and it's the Gila Plimi and the Tzimtzum. Not different Madrigas.
Say again?
It's not the different Madrigas, that the higher Madriga is being mayor and a lower Madriga Makkah. It's that the fact that there's a Plimi being mayor at the same time that there is a Tzimtzum.
Hainuhach. That's exactly the thing. The system is the Tzimtzum. That's what makes it an Pnimi. That it goes up there on a high level and here's on a low level. So either you have Seichel in the Mayach and Koyach HaHilach in the Regel, or you don't. You can't have Seichel in a foot. It just doesn't go. That's kosher l'zavkum. It would never happen. You can't have the foot understanding Seichel. That it doesn't make sense.
Well, there was a
So Abisha can do it, obviously. But that's what we say. It's kosher kikriyas yamsuf. How? Because he's messing up the system which he made. That's why we say it's kosher. Kosher doesn't mean it's difficult to do. Kosher means it doesn't go according to the system which he himself made. He made a system, and according to that system, it doesn't work. It's not supposed to happen. If he does it, of course, he can do what he wants. But why is it called kosher? Because it's not according to the system. Masha'inkin, if you have Ein Sof HaBligvo, which is now all over the place, Ein Sof, and Binis Gala, he's not part of the system. Let me give you a marshal. If you have a policeman, right, so he has to give a fine for somebody doing this, driving the wrong street, okay, whatever he did, whatever avla he did, this is the fine, right? Is he allowed to charge more or less for the fine? If you're talking about if he does things Kedas or Kedin.
He's not a corrupt cop.
It's if he's a real cop, yeah, he's a real policeman, and he's supposed to do this. And if you do this avla, you get this fine. You do 2 avlas, you get this amount of fine. He has to write out the ticket according to the rules. He can't. And for him to do different, it's not because he can't write the ticket and say you don't owe this much, you didn't do anything wrong. According to the rules, you did something wrong. You have to pay the fine. He can't change the rules. Not because physically he can't do it, but because according to the rules, we don't do it like this. If he would, it would be very difficult for him as an honest person, if there is such a thing, and it would be very difficult for him to write the ticket and say, you only did this avla, you didn't do the second avla. It would be very difficult for him. But for example, the king, he's the one that made the rules, and he himself is above the law. He's stuck above the law. And he can say, the guy is high of capital punishment, and the king, as soon as he sees the king's in a good mood, pater, go, it's fine. Because Hilachatchil is not mugbal, he's not mugbal in these rules. But the policeman is mugbal on the rules. So kosher means that it could happen because the Eibishter can interfere and say, I'm going to make a nace. But it's kosher because it doesn't make sense according to the system. Mashenkin, something which is Hilachatchil not in the system, which is Ein Sof HaBligvo, it's not kosher. Doesn't mean to say there won't be the bittul of the system, but it's not kosher. There was one point I think we just missed over, I just wanted to mention, that here is where he also makes that major difference between an oil which is mislabish and oilemus and the oil habligvul, which we were talking about before. The oil habligvul, or the agvul, I mean, it's clear in the Maimah that the oil hagvul goes into the system of tzimtzum, goes into tzimtzum, whereas the oil habligvul, that's what we're saying now, that he's not in the system. He wasn't affected by the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum for him was that he's not mei in the mokem acholo. So what could be marshal for such a thing? In other words, we have 2 tzimtzumim going on in the one tzimtzum. The oil habligvul just is not meir. He's mehelim. The oil hagvul is being mislabish into the tzimtzum. He's mislabish into the shimur. He's coming down according to the tzimtzumim of Seder Hishtalshlus. So what would be a marshal for the first tzimtzum? What mean we say? There's a tzimtzum, and he was nistalik the oil, but he's not affected from the tzimtzum. What does that mean? He's not in the tzimtzum. So if the marshal achi pashut could be another story with Rashi. You know the story with Rashi? He was being chased after by the soldiers. You know the Maisa? So Maisa with Rashi was being chased after, and he ran into his Beis HaMedrash. And they came. It's a Machanayim book, yes. It could also be, yes. But it's a mice. They came running after him to the Beis HaMedrash, and Veinenu, he's not there. So they're calling Rashi, come out. We're after you. He says, I'm here. He's here. Mezetim So he says, if you promise you're not going to do anything, then you'll be able to see me. So they promised, and mitamol vayar v'hinei Rashi. They saw him. Was there a change in Rashi during those few moments that he was invisible? Did he be'etzem change? He didn't change. It's the same Rashi. The whole difference was he made himself that you shouldn't see him. In other places, that's called noga b'hatzimtzum. It's only a negia. In other words, it's only klape you. You don't see him. But be'etzem, he's unchanged.
If the sun is not negia to the sun, if he's Bugali type is a plant.
Okay, but this is much more than that. Versteht sich. Here, he made himself, which normally is visible, he made himself invisible. That's a pella. So the Iyar Sof made itself invisible to Seder Hishtalshlus. So you don't see the Iyar Sof, but he's there. But you don't see him. So he is not changed. Whereas the Iyar HaGvul, which is the Kav which came later, it wasn't just that he made himself invisible. That Iyar HaKav is mislabish in the Tzimtzum. He's nitfas by the Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum is in control of this Iyar, that this Iyar is now Metzumtzum, and as it goes down, it's going to get more and more Metzumtzum. The Rishim was Kilu Teifus, the Iyar. But the Lashon of the Maimah is, who's stronger over here? Who's the Hisgabras? Before the Tzimtzum, there was this Hisgabras of Bligvul. So everything was Iyar Sof HaPoshet, but Memalach HaLametzias, there was nothing else. After the Tzimtzum, the Eibishter changed priorities. Who is now the koyach hagoiver, the isgabras. The isgabras here is on the koyach hagvul. The isgabras here is on the koyach hagvul, and therefore everything now goes according to the koyach hagvul. So the kav has to be mislabish in the shima, and from there it comes down through seder shtalshus. It's mislabish. It becomes nitfas in the hagbolas of tzimtzum. Whereas the Iyar HaBligvul, which wasn't nitfas in the tzimtzum, he just removed himself and made himself invisible. He's not mugda in seder shtalshus.
He says that in parentheses that it's true also about the Malach.
The truth is also with Malach, yeah.
What does it mean?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. The truth is, Malach is also not an emissary hela mitzad atzmai. It's also only klapi the makabel. In other words, the problem with mamala is if there's no keli, you won't be able to see him. Like if you don't have what do you call it? If you don't have a telephone, you won't be able to pick up the text, right? But the text is there. Especially you need the machine to pick it up. So be'etzem he's there. If you don't have a machine, he's not going to be there. So Mamalak Alam allows itself to be in that geder through the tzimtzum. That if you don't have a keli, you're not going to get the gili. If you have a smaller keli, you're going to get the gili of this level. If you have a bigger keli, you can get a higher level.
So when he's saying that it's true about Malik Halam, is that saying that Malik Halam is really Iyar HaBligvul like the Iyar Sev Kalam?
It's not, because we just said before that there's two Iyars. So it is an Iyar HaGvul, but the shaila is how is the tzimtzum affecting it? So we say, it's nitfus in the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum is misgab on it. It controls it, so to speak. That's true, but it's be'emerson. You're not actually changing the oil. If you were to make yourself into a keli, you can get a higher oil. So if we take our example of Atzilus, if you stand down here and you become bottled b'metzias, however you do that, you get the gilu of Atzilus. That's why you can have a novi down here, or Moshe Rabbeinu who was a keli, and he had the gilu of Atzilus down here. I'm a Malkalam is supposed to be up there. Atzilus is a gilu up there. We just said he's on his level. You can't have seichel in somebody's foot. How do you get Atzilus coming down to Elam Hazeh? You can't. The Eibishter, Nishmas Moshe came down, his guf was a keli, so Nasham of Atzilus came down. You have a Novi, he was Mis'ali, he was Misdakich, and he became Roy, and the Gilu of Atzilus came down to him, or whatever the Gilu of Nevuah is. What's that?
On regular Navi is getting Gilu from Atzilus?
It depends which Navi. There's different Navi. Moshe Rabbeinu was from Atzilus, the way it's Mislabish in Bria. Then you have Yecheskel and Yeshaya, different levels. But I'm saying you're having a higher oilam in a lower oilam, which doesn't usually happen.
So that's the Avaya. What's the?
I would assume that's what it is. That it's be'emes, and it's possible to have the whole gilui over here of the whole Malach Alamin, but the Vaila it's not begilui. Just by the way, did you notice? I mean, are you familiar with the Indian of Chazav Heir? he mentions twice, I believe, on page Reish Nun Vav. In the middle, the line begins Shiur, right in the middle of the page. He says, "V'agam she'achat tzimtzum chazer v'heya, v'hainu haratzim bebechinas gilu oir, ha'izeu she'agilu yiyeh al yidei hatzimtzum dafka." You've heard of this Indian chazer v'heya? It's surprising they're not mitzayin to Samach Aleph. The mocker of this Indian of chazer v'heya, I mean, the Loshen may be there in Eitz Chaim, but the whole Indian of chazer v'heya is one of the chidushim of the Rebbe Rashab. I believe in Samach Aleph was when it was first in this Gala, this Indian of chazer v'heya. Chazer v'heya, it's getting late. Chazer v'heya is not just that the kav comes down. It was a tzimtzum, but chazer v'heya means the kav now comes down. It doesn't just mean that. It means also, although he's not mafara over here because it's stama not negeya, he just says the rotzen is now that it should be gilui, as opposed to before the rotzen was that it should be a siluk. So chazer v'heya doesn't just mean that the kav came down. That's chazer v'nimshach hakav. Chazer v'heya means that the whole Ohr and Sof changed around and became misgala to a certain extent. Chazer v'heya, the Ohr and Sof habrigvul also, not just the Ohr hakav. It doesn't talk about it with Proteus over here, but in Samach Aleph he talks about it. When the Ohr and Sof was nistalik, so the whole system is in a tnuah of avegin, of siluk. Now, how are you going to get a kav going down? The whole oil is going that direction, and the kav is coming down this direction. You can't do two directions at the same time. So the chazer v'hei is that the direction of oil and sof changes. It's called a tnuah hofchis. He turns around and he is restarting the inyan of giluim, or the lashon of the maim over here is that the tzimtzum was a rotzen be'inyan hofchi. And then there was the gilui of the rotzen that it should be giluim. Doesn't he say that? Yeah, on that line over there, the rotzen bebechinas gilui. The rotzen, the whole tnuah l'mayla min hatzimtzum changed. Because if you take, for example, what would be an example of somebody who's at a tnuah of siluk or at a tnuah of gilui? Take somebody who's at a tnuah of siluk. That means he's in a mood that he doesn't want to talk. He's sad, whatever the mice is. So he's in a tnuah of siluk. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. So how are you going to get a kav coming from? How's he going to talk to you? If his whole mood, his whole mitzvah is a tnuah of siluk. So if in order to get him to start speaking, you're going to have to change, not just that he should start speaking, force him to speak. That would be a forced gilui and it wouldn't be much oir over there. In order to get him to be megala, the oir hakav, you're going to have to make his whole mood change. In other words, the rotzen beforehand was to go away and not be nisgala. Now he has to change around to a rotzen that he does want to go into giluim. So when his whole rotzen changed, now, I'm ba'ad giluim now. I'm in a yes mood, not a no mood. Oh, now you're in a yes mood. Okay, so now it can be niskala the Ohr hakav. Lepoya, what comes begilu in Seder Shtarshus is only the Ohr hakav. But what's pushing the Ohr hakav is because the whole tnuah has changed from a rotzen to hell and from a rotzen that it should be giluim.
Does that mean that the Hemshech after from the beginning the symptom was gilu purely just for the sake of helam, and then afterwards the Hemshech that it's b'shvil gilui in the symptom, and that's why.
If the symptom is b'shvil gilui, that's
a separate thing.
That's a separate. Talking about what happened.
What is the tnuah?
Yeah, we're talking about the history of what happened by the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum after tzimtzum was chazer v'heya means the whole rotzen changed that he wants now giluim. Before he wanted to have helam, and now he wants giluim of the Eibishter.
So the Eibishter right now I'm gonna go back into Masalim myself.
Yeah.
Who's changing the Eibishter's mood? How does that happen?
He changed it.
There's no.
No. Chazer now there's a rotzen bebechinas gilui. That's why you'll find a very interesting notion that the Rebbe mentions from the Frierdiker Rebbe. He says when he's talking about the tzimtzum b'shvil gilui, he says the Frierdiker Rebbe says even though the tzimtzum is b'shvil hagilui, afal pikein guf ve'etzem hatzimtzum hu heipach harotzen. The actual tzimtzum is what do you mean heipach harotzen? You did it, didn't you? What do you mean heipach harotzen? It's heipach the rotzen. The original rotzen is that it should be giluim, and that was apparent beforehand. Before the tzimtzum, it should be giluim, all in an oifen, a positive oifen. And now you made a tzimtzum. That's heipach harotzen. You've messed up the whole system. So therefore, there has to be chazer v'hei to go back to the original rotzen that we do want giluim. So that was called a hefsik, a tnuah going backwards, and now we're going forwards.
Does it not break the tzimtzum
What's that?
How did that tenua of Aaron say wanting to know people gully not to break the tzimtzum?
Because he's not misgala over again, because otherwise we're back to square one. He's not misgala, he's misgala b'ofen shel makif. He's chayz v'heh inside kilu. His mood has changed, but what is he being megala? He's only being megala a kav. But if he wouldn't be in that tenua of gilui, the kav also wouldn't be in an ofen of gilui. In order for the kav to be gilui, the whole rotzen has to be a tenua of gilui. There's enough coming into the kav also, but we'll get into that. Okay.
The second question is